Um,
Are you able to see the slide, please?
yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
thank you
Yes,
very much.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Good
Yes,
afternoon,
sir.
sir.
See, the course title is Environmental Studies. Course code, you please note down this. This is extremely important because all future question papers, both in semester and end semester, will carry this code all through. And it is 2 credits course, predominantly theoretical. And 1 credit generally amounts to 13 hours of class engagement. That means 13 hours of teaching, and that means it is totally 26 hours of engagement that we will be with you for 26 hours. Sometimes it can increase, but it will never decrease. Today, let us talk the first lesson that is in the lesson plan: scope and importance of environmental studies as the first subtopic. Then the definition of environment and understanding the environment in the right perspective, which needs little elaborate deliberation. So let us see what is this scope and importance of environmental studies. You see, scope is a thing where, by studying these array of lessons, where all one can get, engaged, where all one can make their careers. That is what is scope. And importance of environmental studies is how it is relevant to engineering, how it is connected to the other, core and elective courses that you are going to take up in future in at different semester levels. Now, the disciplines included in environmental education generally are three. One is environmental sciences. They are basic sciences where fundamental concepts are deliberated. And then environmental engineering. Engineering always derives an application which is useful to human being based on the science, based on the scientific principle. And of course, on a larger pedestal, if the engineering has given some kind of application to human or human beings, society, and also the nation and international level, how to manage this, So, three areas of or big areas of environmental environmental study scope is: you can be just an environmental scientist, you can be just an environmental engineering, and also you can also engaged in environmental management. So there are three career options for all of you if you closely develop some kind of what is called philia or liking to environmental studies. The intention of making environmental studies compulsory all over the world, especially in India also, is that it is neglected, it is undermined, it has not got its due importance. However, over the series of lectures, you will understand how important this field is and how relevant it is. And if you know the fundamental concepts and engineering and management concepts related to environmental studies, how best you will be, how efficient you will be as an engineer on the whole. So there is a big scope. It engulfs lot of other disciplines, not only science but engineering and also management as well. And that is the big scope of environmental studies. So it is all the more important that you can always be interested in the topics, and whichever you feel like that your liking coincides and uh, matches with that interest, you can always take as your futuristic studies. Let me just tell about the first science, that is scientific portion. The science portion of it, it deals with scientific study of environmental system. I will tell you about this system little later on, but now you please understand system is a complex machine, I should say. For example, if you say computer system, system will have the appendages, like for example, a computer system will have a keyboard, will have a mouse, will have a screen. Is it not? They are all organs of that particular system, but these organs are always linked for the system to function. Extremely important. The system is never a exclusive standalone kind of a entity. It is always parts, and all the parts have to work in tandem, work jointly to make the system work and function and perform for the benefit of the learner. So it is the environmental studies is a kind of environmental system, and this system comprises of parts. What are those parts? Air part, water part, soil part, and land part. Now you can ask me, sir, you are telling air, water, soil, like we can understand they are the media of environment. And what is land? How land is different from soil? It is extremely intricate and complex. As I go on telling, it becomes more and more complex. You will understand. The soil means the soil generation is, of course, from the rock. Weathering that happens naturally because of the open climate of humidity, air, temperature, and other wind, currents, and other changes that happen in the environment. And soil is a spin-off compound or spin-off benefit from the rock. Now, soil is extremely important for human people to survive because that is the media where all the food grows. Whereas just the rock from which the soil is originated is a part of environment, but it is not soil. You can't grow on the rock. Soil has some kind of organic matter, which is nothing but living matter, and this living matter produces the living kind of grains and food that we all enjoy and live. So soil means always rock portion is there, but entirely not rock. It has organic portion. Whereas the land is the layers in the geological earth. The layers you have what we call it as biomes, the top soil, the middle one, down below you go, some other kind of rocky material, some kind of mineral, some kind of clays, some kind of loams, some kind of sands, some kind of, different kinds of layers that is very, very peculiar and exclusive to that particular region, which we call it as land. So land contains both the rock and the soil, and land contains majorly the rocks, which are very important, are the mountains that are very important. All the mountains are all parts of land, whereas soil is that exclusive portion that comes out, results as a weathering mechanism from the rock, from the land, which is on the land. So the inherent and induced changes on organisms is also studied in environmental science. And the other important thing that we concentrate on environmental science is the focus of what is called damages that result with human intervention, that is human created problems on the earth for his economical sustenance. For example, he establishes industries, he himself creates a lot of waste, and human related, what should I say, impurity or aberration or alteration to the environment is a damage not only for himself subsequently, but also directly to the body of environment, which is the central core of studying environmental science. Environmental engineering is another big scope. It is very specific, where the scientific principles are used to build gadgets, build machines, create and design the machinery to tackle these damages. The damages created by human being has to be solved, is it not? For example, we create a lot of waste, we create a lot of afforestation, that is plucking of forests and creating imbalance. So that is a damage done because of variety of human necessities and activities and economical demands. So it has got to be repaired to bring the environment in its original form. And environmental engineering is that sphere which will always address these damages to be addressed. How it is addressed? By inventing technical or using technology and processes to protect sustain the environment. That is extremely important. So it is where environmental engineering as a big branch also comes out and stands out, and wherein lot of engineering aspects can be done. For example, see, we drink water. Water is plenty in the continent or in the world. You know, three-fourths of the water, the entire earth is water. But what we drink is extremely precious, extremely rare. So drinking water quality, if you want to convert with the natural hydrosphere, there is a lot of engineering that has got to be done. There is a water works that is important for agriculture. You build dams, you know, these are all coming under environmental engineering. So water management, water engineering, wastewater treatment, water treatment for drinking purposes, all these things come. And also landfill, where we, you know, manage the waste and see how waste is separated, how landfills will be used as a basket for the entire city or a state. No, that's extremely important. That needs a lot of engineering aspects. So application on a large scale based on scientific principles, but dealing with environment is called environmental engineering. The third one is environmental management, is another very big area where due to the due regard of physical and social and economic environment that we have, we start it as an enterprise, as a business, as a system business, and we'll have to manage it. So there will be environmental managers who get specialize in, you know, these environmental management issues, which is always a planned activity. Management is always a planned, strategized, and prioritized activity that is indulged by human beings for ease of dispensation of benefits or addressing of damages that we cover in environmental engineering, based and built on the principles of environmental science. That is how these three big areas are engulfed or encompassed in the environmental studies. So any person among you who is interested can become any one or all of the three. Like you can become an environmental scientist, you can become an environmental engineer, you can also become an environmental manager. That is about the scope and importance of environmental studies. This is very short, I am telling, but implications are too big. Each one is an ocean by itself, and as we proceed, you will understand yourself. So it is good to understand at this point in time that there is an immense scope, unlimited scope, and very highly significant and having a lot of importance for our quality of life on earth, to think and also work and also engage with environment. And that is what we have started and started to seriously study. Now, importance of environmental studies, I have put some bullet points, you can see. To clarify modern environmental concept, to conserve biodiversity. Now, you can ask me, what is the meaning of this biodiversity? Bio means that which live, including man, all the living organisms on the earth. It could be a microorganism, it could be an insect, it could be a lizard, it could be a human being, it could be a plant on the land and in the aquatic system. Whatever that living characteristic is always, that which has DNA, that which can duplicate, that which can reproduce. That is the definition of life. Now in a set or in a given piece of land, there will be always a biodiversity. Biodiversity means what? Diverse organisms coexisting. For example, in Bangalore, we are all living, we have houses, human beings are living, plants are living, animals are living. If you take the entire Bangalore district, there is a biodiversity. If you take a piece of or 1 square foot by 1 square foot land, you will have a biodiversity. Not only we will not be seeing it, but we can always establish, and it is true, that there is soil, in the soil there is a type of soil, in the type of soil there are grain sizes, in the soil there are microorganisms dispersed, there are n number of worms, n number of insects, n number of small plants, n number of there is a quite a big range of animal life in that small piece of 1 foot by 1 foot. That is what is called biodiversity. Biodiversity is nothing but it is defined as the diverse living organisms in a defined space. So you can have forest biodiversity, you can have mountain biodiversity, you can have aquatic biodiversity, you can have land biodiversity. That means there are characteristic predominance or dominance, subdominance, and sometimes extinct the philosophies are going on forever in with these living organisms, and that we call it as biodiversity. And this biodiversity should not be disturbed. If that is disturbed, then is imbalance is created, and that is a contra to the conservation. So it is important for us to, as environmentalists or environmental scientists, it is important to conserve in the sense protect this biodiversity, because natural things should be left alone naturally because it is serving purpose. The forest should not be inhabited. That is a place for so many other things. We need to live as it is. Mountains should not be cut. We have to, because they are so useful. They give rivers, which is again useful for human beings. So there is a philosophy of leaving this nature to be on his or her own, so that man can always live in that particular environment. So it is the concept of biodiversity that is extremely important. We will have to protect the environment at any cost. We should not create imbalance. Even if we happen to create imbalance, as soon as we can, we have to bring it back to the original condition. That is the philosophy. Next one is, we have to know the importance of environmental studies become very prominent in sustainability of way of living. Now, what is the meaning of sustainability? First, we talked about biodiversity. Now we talk of sustainability. Now, the word sustain means keep the quality as it is forever. That is the meaning. Keeping the quality of environment forever. Now, environment, you can always remember, have a picture that environment comprises mainly three entities. That is soil, air, and water. SLG, soil representing solid, liquid representing water, air representing the gas. If you can just imagine in the mind, environment means these three components majorly. There are so many other subcomponents which we'll talk little later, but majorly world environment has these three components, and we are dependent on it. In fact, the human being has come out of that. Right? So sustainability means we will have to see that the quality of these three entities which form the environment has got to be maintained, Now, sometimes what happens is, in my generation, I would have disturbed the environment for my good or for my comforts. I have lived, but if I die, that particular environment may not be conducive to the next generation that is possible. So sustainability means enjoy your life in environment and keep up the environmental quality. Be happy about environmental quality in which you live. In other words, environmental quality means good air, good water, good soil. You enjoy that and leave that enjoyment to your child also. Leave that enjoyment to your children also, who are going to come in future. And that is the concept of sustainability. Environmental sustainability is happily living all through my life and leaving the same quality for my kith and kin. That is what is called sustainability. The third one is, we have to use natural resources very efficiently. Now I should talk about resource. Now, what is a resource? Resource is an economical term. Now, what is the how it is economical term? Now, resource is defined as economically or in a technical manner as the demand is very high, but the supply is very less. For example, everybody say gold is costly, gold is precious. Why we say? Because the demand for the gold is so high, but the availability of gold in as it is for human purposes is so low, so less. That is why that particular material becomes a resource. Knowledge can be resource. People who are not knowledgeable, people who are not educated, people who are not literate are very many. People who are literate and having some knowledge are less. So knowledge is a resource. So when the demand becomes very high and the availability of that particular material is less, then that material is called resources or resourceful. Water is a resource because plenty of water is available, the quality of which human being can fully utilize. So good potable drinking water is a resource means you need it very very urgently, you like it, you want to possess it, but it should be in a copious and natural quality. The quality comes, quantity comes, and it should the meeting the demand comes. That is what is resource. And natural resources are very very important. Now what is a natural resource? River is a natural resource, mountain is a natural resource, soil is a natural resource, your rivulets, your uh, kind of climate is a natural resource, weather is a natural resource. See, humidity, rain, they're all very very natural resources, and for them, because they are so interlinked themselves to happen in the environment, the processes and the natural bodies should be left as they are to work on, because they are all very dynamic, though they look very static in nature. The mountain always is standing somewhere forever, but then mountain is always dynamic. It is producing a lot of fresh water, it is producing a lot of other products on which human being is always dependent on. So we will have to use these. You cannot cut the mountain for the rocks and put in your houses in a manner that mountain itself will vanish. That is not correct. You have to take the resource so optimally, so efficiently. I'm not, nobody wants to disturb that particular balance, but then you will have to you have to be very prudent, very wise in using these natural resources. If you don't, then you are most affected, not the environment. Environment also is affected, but not to that an extent as human being himself is affected. That's what we have done. We have put our waste everywhere, we have increased the bad components everywhere, we have polluted the water everywhere. That is what is called unmindful, non-efficient, inefficient usage of a natural resource. That we should not do. And environmental science and studies addresses always this: what are the imminent dangers if we exploit the natural resources unabatedly? To know the behavior of organism under natural conditions, we will, this is another a pointed study, pointed importance of environmental studies. What are those links and interlinks? How the organism is dependent, interdependent, multi-dependent, and also totally reliant on the environment. For example, human being he is totally dependent on the amount of oxygen that is present in the environment, and oxygen is a natural resource. So and that oxygen should be in that proportion in the air, that is 21% of total air should be oxygen. If oxygen portion becomes less by some other human anthropogenic activity, then there is a danger for human life itself, because natural resource of oxygen we are depleting. Likewise, we are depleting petroleum. Likewise, we are depleting so many other good natural resources, and also the conditions are becoming so scary that we are worrying, and we are day in and day out in the ever quest for controlling what is called very big issues like climate change and other things which are largely human created. So it is important that how the interconnection, interdependence of the human being or other organism to yet another organism is going on in the environment. So that is also is inclusive in environmental studies. Then to know the interrelationship between organisms among the population, in the population, and also in the communities. Here population is not just the human population, it could be microbial population, it could be frog population, it could be plant population, it could be desert conditions. That itself in itself is a population. You have a population and you have communities in that population. That is similar members come together, doing similar activity, forming, depending on each other, is a community. So the concept of population, concept of communities is common for not just the human beings, but also to infinite number of other organisms. And we need to study how to maintain this kind of association, to have the diversity of population and be happy, diversity of communities and be happy, and lead a normal, unabated, happy life. That is all the importance of environmental studies. That is the reason why we take up environmental studies. Lastly, to create awareness of environmental issues, because of ignorance, because of sometimes profiteering, and also sometimes of fast or quick buck making, nature of human being, we damage the environment, and that becomes an issue. Like for example, cutting the wood of large trees for our purpose, disturbs, right? That will become an environmental issue. Water pollution can become an environmental issue. Fish kill that happens on a mass scale on a lake is an environmental issue. The increase of temperature, increase of sea temperature, is an environmental issue. The climate change that happens over long lapses of time is an environmental issue. So environmental issues are created and also solved. Now the philosophy is, when we create, we should be careful to do minimal damage so that it is under our control to address it. That is what is called environmental issues. They could be local in nature, they could be national in nature, they could be international in nature. Local, we have at the region level problems. Bangalore city, they say it is not a garden city, but it's a garbage city. So that's a local issue. National issue, in the whole of India is known for non-sanitation and uncleanliness. It's a national issue. International issue, climate change is an international issue. So there will be always issues depending on the spread of region, and these environmental issues all we need to study and address and see that environmental quality is kept up for the quality of life. Now we come to little more detail about defining what is environment. Now we know what is scope. Now we know what is the importance of environmental studies. Now we move on to little bit spend time on what is this environment, how it can be defined. The word environment is like, there is I am reminded of the story, six blind people, touching different parts of an elephant. 6 blind people touching elephant, one touching tail. He says elephant is always a tail. One touches the ear, elephant is always only the ear, because he can't see the entire elephant, and that is what is meant by the word environment. It is to be looked in an entirety. Seldom environment is so explicit. It is such a huge thing that whatever that we have understood is only a part, like 6 blind people. And it is this that makes us to be serious about knowing the environment in a comprehensive and have a holistic view what the environment is. Generally, we mislead that environment is a small portion which is a surrounding. Yes, it is surrounding, we understand, there is no doubt, but that itself is not the entire definition. What is environment? If I ask you, you will say surroundings. Now, what is surrounding? It answers the question, but not completely. Now, let us see how completely we can answer in the best manner that is possible, and derive the definition of the word environment, because this is extremely important. You should understand that it is a very, very, very big, like elephant, very, very big concept, and what we know as of now is very, very small. This is the reality we should understand. So there is big scope of unraveling what is not known, right? So that is where the environmental studies gain very, very important, and the scope is too high. Now, just to define or evolve the definition, we will say, I have put up that let us consider a meteorologist, a person who is interested in the space above the ground, what we call as atmosphere. And for him, the environment, if we ask meteorologist, my dear boy or my dear girl, meteorologist, what is environment? She or he will say that it is atmosphere. Atmosphere is nothing but that blanket of air which is above the ground. For him, all through his life, he will be dealing only with that. So he feels like a person only holding the elephant's ear. He feels that it is atmosphere is the real environment. Similarly, in ecology means oikos means environment, logos means study. Oikos, it's a Greek term. Oikos means environment or surrounding, and logos means study. Ecologist who studies environment, he will say, I am a person who is concerned with the animal and plant kingdom on the earth, because his interest is what are the different species of plants, species of animals that are spread across different zones, different regions, and how that region is associated. This, how kangaroo is related to only Australian environment, why it is not in Bangalore, that kind of interest, ecologist. And also he will study the biotic, abiotic portions, in the sense both living and non-living entities, because living has always relationship with non-living, and he would try to link and relate. And he always tells ecology, the environment is nothing but ecology, because we are dealing finally ultimately only with flora and fauna. A third example, for example, an environmental engineer himself, who is day in and day out studies, because engineer is a design person, engineer is a builder, engineer is a person who finds an application to a concept of science. Now this environmental engineer, he will feel, because if he is working with, say for example, internal combustion engine of a particular machine, mechanical engineer, let us say, he will say that because engine is always in an enclosed space, and whatever that engine and the surroundings that happens, because engine is never the machine which can work in vacuum, so it has to work in air, with the air, absorb the air, convert the air, heat up the air, mix with the fuel, then inject in a particular manner to make an explosion, then heat or energy is created, that energy is utilized to move the machine. He feels that environment is that, it is only the atmosphere that is, it is in the enclosed space in an internal combustion engine. Like, is another blind man who will say that environment is always enclosed space. Historically, many people say environment is always sanitation. If a particular place is clean to see, very lovable, very livable, then we say that particular environment was good. Hospital environment is always clean, so that is the environment. So cleanliness, sanitization, sanitation, purity, lovely gardens, very nice roads without dust or without waste. Historically, we always associated that environment is sanitation, cleanliness. That is why we build what is called sewage, underground sewage leads, because we don't want sewage to be seen outside. So it has got to be closed, and that is a big environment. Sanitation engineering is a very big science in civil engineering, So historically, generally, environment means sanitation. You see, you please understand how things are getting little bit complicated. Now, in truth, actually, everything is environment. Meteorology, atmosphere is environment, flora, fauna is environment, atmosphere in enclosed space is also environment, associated with sanitation, cleanliness, associated with health and public health, community health. So many things get complexed, combined to become environment. And that is what is the complexity, and that is the reason many people cannot have a very explicit idea of environment, because we in our life cannot be everything. All people we cannot become, but the truth is environment is everything. It is sum total, SUM, total of all these things, and there is some more qualifications which we try to define, and that definition is this. The definition is all external conditions. Please note down this, it's extremely important definition, and almost it explains all that we have talked. For example, you see, external conditions, this externality is important. Now external to generally human being and also any other organism. For example, for a human being, external conditions like air, water, soil is environment, because he is dependent on it. For a snake, the environment could be different. For a lion, environment could be different. That is what is apart from lion, the other entities. So when we define environment, we cannot just say it is surroundings. We will have to say that surrounding is always external, because internally also, internal to your body also, there is internal environment. For example, you have heart, you have lungs, you have kidneys, you have intestines, you have stomach, and you have brain, you have blood, and you have bone. They are all internal to your body, is it not? But between the heart and the lung is in the environment environment of heart is in the environment of lung. So is so many organs internally. So that particular environment is also true environment, that is heart environment for the lung, and that we call it as micro environment, MICRO environment. Whereas environment outside the body, for which he is exposed or she is exposed, like air, water, soil, we call it as macro environment. So environment itself can broadly be divided into two categories. One is macro environment, where a cockroach has an environment of sewage, is it not? It lives in sewage. It lives in poor light or no light. So no light becomes a necessity for cockroach. Light becomes necessity for human being. So light being common will be environment for both cockroach and human being. That is what is called externality. It is never inside the body, but you are dependent on it. You are dependent on it. So environment, whenever you define environment, you need to explicitly say they are the conditions and influences and factors like air, water, soil, which will have a direct link, direct effect, and also affect. Affect means dependent. Without that, you can't live. And if you don't have, it will affect it. That means it will create some disease. It will create some problem to you. So external to your body, affecting life, affecting development, affecting ultimately survival of an organism. That is what is a comprehensive definition of environment. When you say this, you need not tell it is surroundings, because surroundings only is a 20 or 30% correct. But what is the type of surrounding? What is the quality of that surrounding? You need to little mention, and what is the default condition your surrounding means. So external conditions, external influences, external factors that affect life, development, and ultimately survival of an organism. Now, when we define this, we have to have correct perspective of this meaning, because this is just one sentence, but it is I can talk this about this sentence for about at least 2 to 3 hours. Right? Now, what does it contain? Little bit about external I have told. Now, let me tell about what is life. Now, what is life? The characteristic of life, if I ask you, is living. And when do we live? When we reproduce. The single characteristic determiner for life. That means, for example, your pen is lifeless, is it not? Pen cannot reproduce on itself another pen. Whereas human being can reproduce another kind of human being. A lizard can lay eggs and give birth to another lizard. A snake can give birth to another snake. A lamb can give birth to another lamb, is it not? So these are living, whereas your pen is not living. So in other words, what is that differentiator? How do you define life? Life is that particular entity where duplication on its own is possible. duplication, and so on is possible. At molecular level, we call it as that reproducing molecule is DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid, which is nothing but the molecule of life that has capacity of replicating itself. Replica means mirror image, and mirror image means what? Functionally also it is replica. Whatever you have the functions, the other human being also will get the same function. That is what is life. Life, the differentiator is reproduction. Please understand, life is extremely tough to understand, define, but that is the determiner. There are other associated qualities, but I will not go into that. I will just only tell the determinant, which is very important, life. Now, what is development? Development is once you come to life, please understand, this life is so complicated that if I ask you when your life started much before you took birth from the mother's womb, is it not? 9 months you had your life inside the mother's womb. You are living, but you are not seen. So, and you are developing there, right? So life is not just the date of birth, but also, there is something pre to life, that is processing of a particular entity in some other protected environment, which we call it as micro environment, and then you come to macro environment. So life is such a beautiful journey. The conception, development, what we call it as gestation in animal life, gestation period, and then coming physically, morphologically outside the mother and leading an independent life, right? So life becomes dependent and independent depending on where you are developing. So that is life. In other words, why do we say that previous life or unseen life is important? Because in that micro environment also, there is a surrounding and there is some kind of conducive, there is some kind of danger. If there is a danger, the life at that particular level itself is affected. For example, there is a class of chemicals called teratogens. Now, what are these teratogens? Teratogens are those pollutants which will always affect at the womb level, not at the after you take the birth. You see, that's the reason why a lot of syndromes, a lot of other things, other abnormal things happen. So life at that particular level where it is developing inside the mother's womb, which is not expressed outside, is affected. So it is extremely important for us to know what are those danger elements which will not make you normal, right? So that also comes in the environmental science. Those extraneous elements inside the mother womb at the micro environment level affecting your life quality. That is also environmental science. This happens in all organisms depending upon the type of the organism. Now, development is one cell becoming 4 cells, 8 cells, finally an organ, a heart, a body, a skin, differentiation. So one cell becoming 2 cells, 2 cells becoming the multiplication, that is organ differentiation, then functionality. That is what is called development. In the development stage also, external factors can have a direct influence, right? If the developmental conditions, you have bad environment, for example, let me say, you have ionizing radiation, which is external to your body, this development cannot happen normally. So there will be dysfunction instilled in that particular organal function. So development also is reliant and dependent on the external factors influences, right? That is why life development and ultimately the survival of the organism. Now, what is survival? Life and survival are different. It is not same. While life is coming out of the mother's womb, survival means life plus growth without mother. You see, in other words, there is a protected environment for some time. When you come out, there is an open environment which is more danger, more complicated, more unsafe, for which you will have to fight. Now, for example, take coronavirus. Coronavirus is external to the environment, is it not? It is in the air. So if you come across coronavirus, you will have to fight with coronavirus and defeat the coronavirus, and you should win to live. That is called survival. Survival is not life, it is life plus fight against bad elements which are in the environment externally. So you have to differentiate very carefully what is life, what is development, what is survival. And all these three big chapters, life, development, survival, are engulfed, and they have direct quality and quantity bearing on your real what is called homeostasis or health condition, for you to be normal and well, normal and have enjoy health. And all these factors which affect life, development and survival of the organism are external to you. They are external to you. They are in the surroundings, their surroundings. That is the complex definition of environment. I think I have made it little elaborate, and now you know how comprehensive the environment is. Never just define environment as surroundings. Have this definition in the right spirit, and also right perspective, and also know what this word mean, what is externality means, what does life means, what does development means, what survival means. It is extremely important for you to understand in this manner, so that you become a comprehensive, knowledgeable person in environmental studies. That is the definition of environment, and elaborate implication and underlying principles about the environment. Now, awareness. Because of these unseen, hidden things are more, hidden entities are more, there is a complexity built automatically in the environment. And so, what is obvious, what is explicit, what can be seen is less. What is underlying, what is unseen but having effect is more. So we have to have a kind of what is called advertisement and marketing, and also education in place for us to understand environmental science or environmental engineering or environmental management. And that is the reason why we need to create awareness. Awareness is nothing but it is always there, but we don't know on its entirety. So create awareness. Educate us. That is the reason why all the people, immediately of the branches of engineering, awareness has to be created on environment, because that affects everybody, all people in all times, in all walks of life, incessantly, day in and day out. So awareness becomes important, and because of this awareness, things are becoming right. Things are, people are becoming kind of what's called sensitive. See, we were not knowing, or so many people were not knowing what is a virus before corona came, is it not? Now you see, even a small school going children will tell, yes, that is a virus. The word virus itself was not known to many except biologists, except medical people, except doctors, except natural science people. Now it is so much awareness has created, people know about it. This similarly, we have to know the implication, and we have to make everybody educated about the word environment. Let us see how it started. Now, there is a word called environmentalists. Environmental scientist is a different person, environmentalist is a different person. Now, what is the difference? The environmentalists are those people, literate or illiterate. Education is not very important for person to have a liking on the environment. It is just the basic love of surroundings. Some people, they are not educated, but they are very fond of trees. They are very fond of gardens. They are very fond of, there is no education, but they are fond of this particular piece of external thing that they see. And there is a kind of what's called relationship that develops as a bond. You see, some people are very happy with mountains. No, they would be so happy with mountains. So there is a kind of relation. And for that, there is no need of education of mountaineering, education of mountain quality, education of biomes, there is no need. So if you develop a liking, and you feel that liking, whenever you like a person, naturally respect comes. And whenever you respect that particular entity, it could be a river, it could be a mountain, it could be a natural scene, it could be a forest. You develop such people who have that philia, who have that liking, are called environmentalists. For example, Salu Marada Timmakka, totally uneducated, totally illiterate person, but she believed in planting trees to miles and miles on national highways. Why? Because there was liking. She thought that a tree is nothing but my own daughter, my own son. And after about 60, 70 years, fortunately she is living to enjoy how what a big work she did. You understand? So such people are called, or for example, Sundarlal Bahuguna, who made that apico, or that treatment. I mean, embracing the trees of Himalayas, right? They are called environmentalists. There is no education necessary for them, but they are having a big respect, big kind of feeling so good with the environment as it is. They are called environmentalists. These environmentalists, but whereas all of you cannot be called environment, but you are environmental scientists, because you will know what are those laden scientific principles which make the real environment, and which one you should prioritize, which one you should control, so that environment is protected. So you are a bit more educated, bit more aware, in a manner of I should say, technically speaking, technical knowledge you will get it. And at the same time, you also develop respect, you also develop kind of what is called philia, liking to environment. So environmental scientist is a evolved, aware person who has awareness already through formal education, whereas environmentalists need not have formal education, but they respect and promote environmental conditions as they are. They don't like disrupting environment in a big way. So these environmentalists, congregated themselves, because they felt that lot of bad things are happening uncontrolled, unabated, nobody is questioning this bad thing that is going on, polluting water, cutting trees, deforestation, and all human beings without any reckless, unmindful, very demolition, monstrous activities by human beings. They found that they are being hurt. You see, it is like whenever you cut a tree, they feel that their hairs and their this one is plucked. That is how they used to relate, and it's a nice sentiment. You see, yet they relate that environment also has life. Environment is also like me. Like I have bones, mountains are there. Like I have hairs on my body, forest is there. Like I have heart and other internal organs, the other organs like river, lentic, lotic systems, the deserts, the plantation, the mangroves are there. That is how they relate. They relate that environment is also a human being. So whenever human being is respected, environment also has to be respected, right? So when they saw a danger, when they saw a recklessness of, unmindfully cutting all these things, unmindfully treating, eradicating certain environmental objects, environmental materials, environmental resources, they got wild, they got concerned, they got kind of what is called angry. So they wanted to formalize, something has to be done for this. So WHO, World Health Organization, being a UN organization, conducted a world conference at Stockholm, Sweden between 5th and 16th June 1972. And that is the reason why everything is now becoming formal. It is being made compulsory because we have lost a lot of time in damaging. And if you don't get up now and create awareness, we will die on environmental prakopas, environmental, man created dangers. You must have recently realized or come across reading newspapers that in California the forest was burned on its own on a forest fire, and to put off that forest fire it took almost months and months, and it took so much of money and so much of governmental participation. We can't. So such big episodes should not happen. Big tragedy should not happen. We will have to control that, and all our environmental studies gears up ourselves to be guarded, to not to create such kind of havocs and such kind of bad incidents. So with that reason, between this 5th and 6th Stockholm conference was held by WHO. Now who all attended this conference? about 150 country premiers, prime ministers. You see, the head of the states, they were the members. They attended this conference, and the resolution at the end of this, conference, there was a resolution, and United Nations Environmental Program was inducted. And under that, there was an United Nations Developmental Program. So that means we have to develop environment. We will have to take as a big measure, as a formal measure. We have to create some dedicated ministries at each country level. These are all prime ministers. No, they could take decision then and there. And after coming from there, the origin of UNEP happened between. That is the reason why we make 5th June is always an environmental day, World Environment Day. That is the reason we celebrate every year. And origin of UNEP made everything straight, everything formal, everything mandatory, everything strict, and everybody should get this awareness. Should means mandatory, compulsory. So environmental studies became compulsory part of core part for every stream of education. And after coming, then our prime minister, who they also participated, a Department of Science and Technology was developed. A separate new ministry started. Till then, there was nothing like Department of Environment as a separate cabinet rank minister. There was nothing like that. So when a ministry was created, when an office was created, when paraphernalia was created, lot of good things happened. Karnataka Pollution Control Board, Central Pollution Control Board, environmental awareness, environmental programs, environmental research, environmental studies, they were introduced at different levels in schools, in primary, secondary, tertiary education, higher education, everything started. And that is the reason why we are also studying environmental study in a way. And of course, sometimes bad things also bring good changes. And one classical example is Bhopal gas tragedy. That is an environmental tragedy, stirred the whole cross section of the entire world. Within a span of some very few days, so many people died because of inhalation of that poisonous gas, totally created by man. Totally, ignorance, negligence of the environmental thing. So Bhopal gas tragedy is also responsible for creating awareness in the forum of environment. Many rules, regulations were started from 1972 onwards, both in India and also about in 150 countries whosoever participated in the Stockholm Conference. This is about how environmental awareness was started and now continuing. The next important aspect is, what is pollution? Pollution is nothing but act of making impure. First thing what we should understand is pollution of man-made, man origin, or what you call it as technically anthropogenic. So chimneys are man-made, industries are man-made, smoke that is coming out as pollution is man-made, water that is gets soiled by industries, effluents, and also sewage and sanitation, they are also to be rectified. We have to bring back that quality. You have to bring back that particular air quality. That is how the pollution studies become central core of environmental studies. How we define pollution? Presence of matter or energy whose nature, location, quantity produces undesired environmental effects. Undesired environmental effects means not only a damage to the environment, which is so docile, so innocent, so nice, so sacred, but also because of that bad environment engaged with human beings, you also get diseases, you also get lot of health and other permanent damages that can happen. So it is important that environmental scientists should know pollution science, pollution chemistry, recognition, evaluation, and control of these pollutants. Just I'm giving you, it is not an exhaustive list. What are those contaminants which cause pollution, which result in pollution? Smokes, vapors, dust, soot, carbon fumes, particulate matter, radioactive materials, pathogenic microorganisms, noxious chemicals, any other material which is injurious as it is, or can turn to be, or can become to be danger little later also. That is also pollution. So pollution is in the core of the environmental studies. Now, why should we, be continually talking of environmental studies? Because there are two major reasons. Our society has taken this as priorities, and that is the reason why we have got to be continually be guarded. First thing is, beyond doubt, beyond research has shown that our environment, be it rural, be it urban, depending on it's only the degrees and gravity, that is all. It contains elements which are noxious. Noxious means unwanted, undesired, causing negative biological effect and disease. That is called noxious. So our environment has some man-made pollutants always, right? And we should be aware of what is the quantity and quality of that noxious elements. So environmental studies and so pollution studies become extremely important. The next is our priority is because ours is a developing and poor, developing country. We tend to neglect the industrial source of pollution, which is on a large scale, right? Which is on a large scale. And this industry setting up is changing the scenario of the complete environment, upsetting. For example, a paper mill will upset the ecology and environment of a forest, right? And it also upsets the river quality, right? It is good that we should have industries because it promotes our economy and employment. There is no doubt in that. But at the same time, we should be aware, we should know that it gives out pollutants and they have to be controlled then and there. If not, we are damaging the purity of environment, and in the process, we are damaging ourselves. This is what is the philosophy. Now, let me put the almost, I think it's a last or penultimate slide, a comprehensive slide. How these environmental factors, now environmental factors means which are external to human being, which are dangerous to the homeostasis and health of the human being. They are external to it. They could be factors, they could be influences, they could be chemicals, they could be some kind of energy which is unseen. Not always whatever that we see, carbon monoxide is a pollutant, everybody know, but that is not just the only thing, but there are so many other things which I list now that you will really wonder, my God, there are so many kinds of factors, environmental conditions that we should be guarded, we should be worried, and we should do a systematic, serious study about them. What are those that affect human health? Because we are all human beings. Now we take human health as the central theme. And what are those factors that affect, which are external to human being and a part of environment that will affect the human being? The first and the foremost, you see, for surprise, it is psychological factors. So man is a man with a mind. A man without a mind is, that means he doesn't have that psyche, right? So man is always having that psychology factor. And psychological factors, psychological health is one of the most important part of health. One is the organal health, the other one is mind health. Mind also is a parallel runner to inside the body. It is inside the body. We do not know where it is inside the body, but it is definitely inside the body. And that can be affected. That means there is another entity like a similar man inside the man itself. And that is what is called psychological layer, right? Like we have three layers: subconscious, unconscious, and semi-conscious. Is it not? Semi-conscious, subconscious, and unconscious state. So we have these three: conscious, subconscious, and unconscious states are my states of mind, states of psychology. So for that, what are the stressors? What are the external factors which can affect this mind? It is the stress. For the students, it is the examination stress. For the students, it is studying so many subjects in depth. That is a stress, right? Now, we have to identify that what are those stress. Then only we will be able to measure it and then control it. Is it not? So first, identification becomes extremely important. Stress is a known entity that will deteriorate the health of the person. Shift work, especially for industrial people, industrial factory personnel, workers, shift work becomes extremely important. For example, normal shift work of a person, for example, a call center is night. You have to start work in the night, 8 o'clock, come in the morning. For a nurse in a hospital, it is the night. For a doctor in the hospital, it is the night. They have got to be awake. They have got to be performing. They have got to be fully functional, fully careful in the night. Like we are so aware in the day, they have got. So shift work places a big toll on psychological factors, psychological health. Pay, for example, people like me, or people like anybody, or people like all my students, they want good pay. For a good pay, they want a good placement. For good placement, they have to read. This is a stress, is it not? And it is also a motivational factor. Sometimes good pay motivates you in a better manner. So it is a factor. It's a psychological factor. It is a recognizable, cognizable factor. Human relationships definitely is a big psychological factor. The relationship between sister and brother, parents and students, teacher and student, brothers and relationships, they're extremely important. They lay a lot of stress on the psychology or psycho or mind of the human being. So in environmental studies, because they're external in nature, they come under environmental studies. So that is psychological factors which have direct bearing on the health of the person. Biological factors, bacteria, it is not always inside the body. There are many bacteria which is outside the body, which are pathogenic, gram-negative in nature. They cause diseases. It could be your leprosy, it could be your tuberculosis, it could, so many microorganisms can cause so many types of diseases. Viruses, I need not talk now. We are in pandemic period. We are day in and day out worried about this coronavirus. You see, viruses which are external to human body. They are never within the body. But if they go inside, they will create a havoc. And because it's external and creates a stress, creates an imbalance to human health, so it is an environmental study. Parasites, ticks, ants, so many small microorganisms, and also some kind of worms and other things which will bite you, which will create a lot of infections. So biological factors also upset the health, and they are external in nature. So we need to study about them. We need to know about them. Accident factors. Accident is an unfortunate, unexpected, sudden event that generally are people become victims. Hazard situations that are very dangerous situations in the environment. For example, a machine guard, a speed of the machine. We have to cognize they are external to human being, external to industrial people. But they have potential to damage the health. Physical factors, noise. My God, noise can upset your digestion system. Noise can upset your blood pressure. It can create sleeplessness. It is such a nuisance factor which nobody likes, right? Climate, workload, light, radiation, heat, noise, heat, cold, velocity, humidity, air velocity. They're all physical factors. Generally, we don't know, we don't care because they are not seen, right? But they are the real culprits to upset the health. So because they are external to body and have potential to create health hazard, we have to study as in environmental science. And finally, I put chemical factors because this I need not explain. Generally pollution means chemicals. It is dust, it is drugs, it is skin irritants, it is food additives, air pollutants, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, lead, sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, hydrogen sulfide. Right? This is easy to understand, but because it is not projected, and people know that these are the chemicals that always, in majority, upset the health. So, my dear students, please understand, environment is becoming a little more complicated. It is engulfing other branches of science. It is engulfing the health. It is engulfing the physical physics. it is engulfing chemistry, it is engulfing biology, it is engulfing psychology, right? So it is a complex science, but there is a bit and also depth of understanding. Then only we will truly appreciate and respect this particular environment. Unless we become serious about these studies, it is extremely impossible for us to appreciate the environmental participation, environmental contribution towards human health. And unless we know about these things, it is difficult for us to perceive the significance of environmental studies. That is the first lecture. I have taken a little bit more. I went a little beyond this one for you to understand. Now we go to the next, this one. I will just introduce this particular topic, the next lecture, what is called basic concepts. Please don't be scared about this. They are all very simple concepts, but if you learn whatever that I have listed, these 12 chosen basic concepts, I am sure you are going to become a very fine, very nice, most apprised students of environmental science. Now, what are those basic concepts which we should learn? Today, I may talk about one or two and leave it to you. And in the next class, that is tomorrow, we will cover some more. And in the next class, we can complete these basic concepts. The first one is what is called xenobiotics, dose and health effects. I'm reading out that so that you can you become familiar with the words. And in dose and health effects, acute and chronic exposures, entry of chemical into human body. What are those routes? Ecokinetic properties of a xenobiotic. You will become familiar with this xenobiotic in a short time from now. Biokinetic properties of xenobiotic. What is that significance of man's biological air needs? Air pollution system, as a system, how air pollution is figured and structured. What are the factors of air pollution? That is what is called tonnage, toxicity, and time. How that is significant in air pollution studies. What is the structure of atmosphere? What is the concept of atmospheric inversion? What are those criteria or index pollutants which are so common, so nice, so few to study, so that we can delineate and talk about that particular pollution of that particular region where we have studied major air pollutants? Then the concept of threshold limit values, that is standards, ambient air quality standards, threshold limit values, permissible exposure limits, maximum allowable concentration. One sentence each we will learn how that concept becomes important. Then what is respiratory tract anatomy that human being, that is human lung has, because that has relevance, you will appreciate it. So with these 12 major basic concepts, if you become quite conversant and quite exposed and engaged, the environmental study understanding becomes so much easy, so much facilitated. Now let us see what is this xenobiotics. The word xeno means foreign, that which is outside. Xenos is a Greek term. Xenobiotic. Xenos is outside, foreign, a stranger, not within the body, not the component within the body. Biotic means that in amount or quantity creates a measurable biological effect. So xenobiotic means a particular entity, generally a chemical, which exerts some kind of effect to the biological system, and that we can measure as of now with the gadgets and technical know-how that we have. So that is a first concept in environmental studies. Xenobiotic, technical name for nothing but a pollutant or a contaminant or a agent that causes disease. Now, what is the xenobiotic for the pandemic? Anybody can tell? Anybody? Hello? Now, pandemic is because of coronavirus. So, virus is a xenobiotic, right? Xenobiotic. Xenos means foreigner, stranger, bios means life or causing biological effect. A chemical substance, how it is defined? Xenobiotic is a chemical substance found within an organism that is not naturally produced inside the body or expected to be present within the organism. In other words, an extraneous outside origin, we get exposed and get that particular foreign entity inside, and when the xenobiotic goes inside the body, depending on its nature and its target organ, we get the disease, we get the aberration, we get the problem. That is what is called xenobiotic. All pollutants are called xenobiotics. In medical parlance, a xenobiotic is known as antibody, right? Sorry, antigen. The coronavirus is an antigen. For that to fight, your body should have antibody, right? So antigens are xenobiotics, pollutants are xenobiotics, contaminants are xenobiotics. Xenos, which is foreign, outside the element, going inside and causing damage. That is the first concept. Xenobiotics are foreign to an entire biological system, and entirely all xenobiotics are man-made substances. In other words, industrially prepared, man created, man synthesized. And for all that, there is a technical term called anthropogenic source, man created, artificial. Natural compounds sometimes can become xenobiotics. Sometimes, in some conditions, some special conditions, even natural substances can become xenobiotics. So, xenobiotic means that foreign to the body, going inside the body, creating the damage, creating a disease, creating an aberration. Xenobiotic. Now, what are the major classes of xenobiotics? There are drugs. What is a drug and a medicine? A drug is nothing but a chemical whose dose is not known. Drug becomes medicine when doctor prescribes it. Take for example, paracetamol is the drug, but 500 milligrams, take 3 times a day for 5 days. If the doctor says, then that particular paracetamol, which was a drug, now became a medicine, right? So drug means uncontrolled, not titrated dose. So dose differentiates drug and the medicine. Drugs can be potentially harmful because drugs are not created inside the body. They are always injected, pumped outside or taken outside the body. So drug is a xenobiotic. It will always have a biological effect. Chemical carcinogens, that substances which creates a cancer, is a xenobiotic. Polychlorobiphenyls, which are organic chemicals, hydrocarbons in nature, very persistent, very difficult to remove. They are xenobiotics. Insecticides, organophosphorus, organochlorine, pyrethroids, insecticides, pesticides, which are chemicals meant for killing the pests. Insecticides, they are external to environment, but you can inhale them and also get a lot of associated diseases. Insecticides are xenobiotics. Like that, you have infinite number of extraneous chemicals, largely synthetic man-made materials, which at least as of now, it is more than 200,000, that is 2 lakh of chemicals, pollutants, organic, inorganic compounds, sometimes docile, sometimes very dangerously they get converted. They can be xenobiotics. They are the, of course, in other words, this is also called what is called recalcitrant. Recalcitrant means very hard to remove, very difficult to control. Such entities, such chemicals which are man-made in nature, which we are getting exposed day in and day out, which has delineable or measurable create biological effects, they are called xenobiotics. This is the last slide. I will close after this. What are the hazards, risks? That is, what is the potential danger of xenobiotic? They are toxic in nature, highly toxic. Highly toxic means what? Very poisonous in nature. Cause various and serious diseases like cancers. Not necessary, it's just an example. Serious diseases, not degraded, they don't get soft, they don't get diluted, they don't get their effect lessened, they cannot be metabolized, they cannot be digested, they cannot be converted inside the human body by known human enzyme interactions, metabolism, and they remain in nature for a very long time. That means we are getting exposed to it for a long time. Our exposure time is high, exposure time is more. Okay, these are the 4 characteristics of xenobiotics, and we should be concerned about these xenobiotics. All environmental studies, especially pollution science, centers around understanding the nature and also addressing and minimizing the quality of the xenobiotics so that our health is maintained. I will stop at this today, and we continue the talk tomorrow with what is called dose and health effects, and we move on like that. I am closing today. It is the time is now 3:55, 5 minutes before. If you have some flash questions, you could easily ask now, or else you can always note down, and we can have a half an hour to 45 minutes interactive session later when we complete the basic concept module of the study. Thank you very much. Have a nice time, and we will meet at the same time tomorrow around 2:30 p.m. and go ahead, continue with the basic concepts. Thank you. Shubha, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Shubha, okay. Shall I close now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can close the meeting.
Okay. Is there any other formality, Shubha? You have taken attendance or something like that?
No, sir, I have recorded the attendance, so we can end the meeting now, sir.
Okay. Was it audible? You could see the slides and everything?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Students will meet tomorrow at the same time at 2:30. Thank you so much for attending.